were you making money then?
That's the big question. That wasn't.
You weren't making money.
That wasn't much money. We were just barely getting by. And whatever we were making, we were still putting it back. You understand? Plowing it back, going, paying for promo, paying, making expenses so that you move forward.
I had this question about making money because you see, people now, we still look with some kind of fondness to those days when Nigerians say to you, when Nigeria had proper record companies, people talk about Sony Music, CBS, Premier Music, Polygram, and EMI and all of that. Because by the time others came along, when piracy had taken over and all those big companies had left, then we had to resort to piracy. I don't know if you ever heard of names like Big Boss Gigaman, DJ Kev D, and all of those people. Those were the ones selling stuff like that. But people will say that, look, the record labels that came later, the independent record labels like Kenny's Music and others, that they didn't have the structure of Sony and all of that. But this is you. You are perhaps one of the biggest artists that ever came out of Nigerians that ever came out in that time. And you are telling me you didn't make money.
Yes, we made a little bit of money to get by, take care of expenses, take care of family, take care of. But we were basically making money from the shows we were playing, not much from the record sales. Not much from the record sales. And I wasn't the only one. If you know the history of music marketing, even now, artists are being ripped off. You understand? I can understand that these days it costs more to promote, it costs more to, but at the end of the day, the structure of record companies that the structure is that they are not fair. Do you understand? The record companies we were working with, they had their own issues too, and they would tell you, are you talking about the ones the pirates sold or the ones we sold? You understand? We didn't make much. We didn't make much. And I wasn't the only one. But we had shows that were coming, even shows that time were a bit risky. If the promoter doesn't pay you in front or up front, you may not see the rest of your money. That's one. Two, if you decide to put up your own gigs like the artists of these days do, you're worried about the possibility of it raining. If it rains, nobody's going to come out. Unlike these days they sell their tickets ahead of the day of the show. So if you don't want to come, your money is already in his bag. You understand? We didn't really make much money that time because most of the times there were no monies to be made. The record companies, like I said, there was this unfairness from their side. To them, it's like, okay, we have helped you to build a name. Why should you bother? A distributor in Aba, one distributor in Aba called Levi, once told me that maxi single that had Celebrate, Wadama, My Light, and all those, that he sold over 550,000 copies, him alone. When you come to the record company, you say, oh, can you go to the sales department? And they say, we're not selling much. So that was big problem with being unfair to the artists. You understand? It still happens till today, but they're a bit more transparent these days than during our time. You have a deal with a record company. They own the machines that manufacture the cassettes, the records. They own the store. The employees are the people who are in the factories and work for them. And the only thing they can give to you is the figures they want to give to you. You understand? But one thing, that we had going, which nobody could take away from us, were the shows. You understand? The shows, we were playing the shows, and people were calling us. Warri, I can't count how many times I went to Port Harcourt, Warri, Benin, Owerri, Jos, even Enugu to perform. At least those were coming. And we also, within all that time, we also had these musicians you must take care of. You must take care of the musicians, So, and I also checked all that because I looked at it. How long am I going to continue to do this? You understand? And then the shows, at a certain point, people are not going to be calling you for shows because new artists will come up. So I thought all these things, and that was one of the reasons why I had to leave.
Who were the new artists that you saw coming then while you were?
Two-Face and the Plantation Boys. They were still trying to come. It was when I was outside, then their music started getting popular, that I started hearing about him. Daddy Shoki was also still coming up. Daddy Shoki used to come and perform with, I think, two other boys. They used to come with the congas and perform in between shows. Who else again? Yeah, I can't remember. But I can tell you that it wasn't only me that traveled. Michael Cree also traveled. Alexito traveled. Ras Kimono traveled. You understand? And when all of us traveled, people were telling me that it was beginning to look like there were no more musicians in Nigeria. That was now before, these P Square them and these other guys started coming up.
Because you looked as if, just like you said, it looked as if traveling out of the country then was a rite of passage for people of your time. Either you were doing reggae, either you were Majek Fashek, the Mandators, Ras Kimono, or you're doing pop like Michael Cree. Everybody at a point left.
Traveled.
Now, Let me even put it in context. What year did you leave?
I left Nigeria in 1998.
98?
Yes, 1998. Yes, that was when I left.
So it was something that you really, really needed to do at that point?
I wanted to do that. I wanted to travel. But I hadn't made up my mind where to go. I wanted to experience what life is for musicians outside Nigeria. And also, the other point also is, that time, the internet, there was no internet, you couldn't. But I actually remember at some point writing letters that was before writing letters to A&M Records, Interscope, a whole lot of them. You pick their names on the back of our album sleeves with their addresses, and you send a letter to them, tell them this. And a few of them contacted me, but communication was difficult. So when it was time for me, I said, okay, why not? Let me travel. Take a chance. Go. See what happens. You understand? And one thing that happened those days, that one major issue those days, there were only, I think, 4 or 5 record companies, around 4 or 5. So you can imagine the number of people, thousands of people who were trying to get through that door. So you needed God to be on your side. And some of them were so good too. I remember people like Manny Eke, the late JT Tom West. I remember Shola Majid. These were singers, you know what I mean? People who could sing, but not many. Shola just released a gospel album lately. Beautiful. She still sings well.
Some of these people work with you. You work with Zubi too. Did you work with Zubi?
No, Zubi was with Onyeka.
Okay.
Yes.
What about Manny Eke?
Manny Eke was in our band.
It was in your book. You
Same
mentioned Manny Eke.
With Samuel Ozo, Yinka Davis.
Okay, now mentioning Yinka Davis, what about other backup singers and dancers that you remember?
Yes.
Which others can you remember?
Yes, Margaret was there. Louisa Igua was there. Nelson Brown was there.
Nelson Brown,
yes, the producer. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Some of them came, some of them left, some got replaced, some continued. I also worked with Mr. Way. I also worked with, but the core of the band that we were together for quite a while, Samuel Ozo, Big Teddy, Teddy Fretless, Yinka Davis, Who again? Who again? Who again? I have to remember.
Tell me what your typical concert was like back in those days.
Okay. From my background, after my trainings and all that, I was taught to rehearse properly, prepare yourself before you go to perform at a show. That is the only way you can build and boost your confidence and face the crowd. You understand? A lot of people used to think that I would drink something or smoke something before going.
Did you?
Of course not.
You never drank in
Of course not. In between, like, let me give you an example. After the show is finished, yeah, I can have a beer, I can have a drink with my friends and the band, whatever. There was this particular big show in Port Harcourt that I had, and 2 journalists from Lagos that were in Port Harcourt. So they came to that show. They said, we have to be around you, your room, your manager before. It's a lady and a guy. So we said, okay, because I knew them from Lagos. Oh yeah, come. Came straight to our room upstairs. I usually request for a suite or 2 rooms that are close to each other. So me, myself, my manager, and one other guy that's an assistant, more like. You understand? The 3 of us always stay in one room, and then we use the other room for meetings with the press or whatever. So that Ike helped me a lot, because I would have had a lot of distractions. The women, the whatever it was. So when you come, you want to see us, you see the 3 of us. So if you had any other plans or whatever it is, other things you want, you go talk them there now. So we go know waiting. You understand? Because we were all young and we needed somebody to help coordinate all of us. And Ike did a perfect job. He helped. So I didn't have to stray, get distracted. So these 2 journalists, they came with us up to the room. We were all there. Then somebody came and said, okay, you're coming on now. You're about to come down. They're coming to fetch you so that you go to the stage. I said, okay. So the people came up and we all went down. So the moment the band was playing, I jumped on stage, everybody performed the songs, finished performing, came back to the room. They also came. So we thought we were watching whether you were going to sip something or smoke something, or I said, no. If I drink beer before going on stage, it can affect my voice. So I stay away from all those. You understand? Stay away from, and I wasn't smoking. A few times I tried to smoke, my body no take them. You understand? So they came, I said, I don't take, but now we finished the job. We can drink a beer or 2. We can have our drinks. So that's how it always worked for me.
Whose idea was Jerry Call and the sequence? And
oh my God! There we go again.